Stop over-explaining. You're losing trust and credibility. Someone asks you a question and you know the answer. And instead of just answering the question they asked, you start explaining.
Let me explain.
You give context, you give background, you give caveats. You walk through your reasoning, then you give some examples, and then you circle back to something you said 3 seconds ago. By the time you're done, you've technically answered the question.
Technically, you're a goddamn idiot.
But something has shifted in the vibe. That certainty that you felt when you started answering the question somehow isn't really there anymore. This is the credibility trap, and it's one of the most common ways genuinely competent people undermine themselves without even realizing they're doing it. The instinct to over-explain feels like thoroughness. It feels like a display of competence.
Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect!
It feels like you're being careful and precise. But in most situations, more words don't signal more expertise. It actually signals the opposite. So in this video, we're going to talk about why you over-explain, why you need to stop, and exactly how to do it. Here's the thing about over-explaining. It's not actually about the content. It's about what the behavior of over-explaining is actually communicating, regardless of the words you're saying. When someone answers a question briefly and clearly, it signals something specific. They know it well enough that it doesn't justify clarification. The certainty speaks for itself. When someone answers the same question with 5 minutes of context, caveats, qualification, it signals something completely different, even if everything they said is accurate. It signals uncertainty about whether or not the answer is going to be accepted. It signals a need to preemptively defend a position that hasn't even been challenged yet. The listener isn't consciously thinking, this person seems insecure, but they definitely feel something. A kind of unease that tracks with the length of the defensive answer. This is the trap. The more you over-explain to seem thorough and confident, the less you actually appear to be. And once that vibe sets in, it changes how the content actually gets received. Even answers that are completely correct become less trustworthy because of how defensive you are about the explanation. Over-explaining is not a communication style. It's usually a signal of internal uncertainty that's manifesting through your behavior. And here's why most smart people do this more rather than less. The smarter, the more capable you are, the more likely you are to fall into this pattern. Not because you know less, because you actually know more. And that knowledge makes you feel compelled to really explain everything thoroughly. When you genuinely understand the question that's being asked or the topic that's being discussed, you can explain it thoroughly. You know all the nuances, you know all the exceptions, you've got plenty of history and examples.
I drink and I know things.
And there's a real temptation to include all that stuff, partly out of intellectual honesty and partly as a demonstration that you are the subject matter expert. And because you are, and because you can explain it in such depth, you deserve more credibility, not less. But here's where that instinct backfires. Most of the time, your audience isn't looking for the full complexity of the answer. They're looking for a clear, confident answer that they can use to take action on. Every little additional caveat you add in, even if it's 100% correct, chips away at their confidence that you really know what you're talking about, because it starts to feel like you're hedging against being wrong rather than being absolutely certain that what you're saying is right. And this connects to another video I did a few weeks back about overthinking. Overthinking is over-explaining, just out loud. It's the same process. Your brain is generating more analysis, more examples, more justification. And instead of just thinking these things in your head, now you're saying it out loud, in real time, in front of the person you're trying to convince. And just like how overthinking rarely produces a better decision, over-explaining rarely produces a better outcome. It produces a longer one. There's a difference between clarity and caution. And here's an important distinction that's easy to miss. Thoroughness and over-explaining are not the same thing. Thoroughness is giving someone the information they need to act and make a decision. It's precise, It's organized, it's already anticipated the next follow-on question or two and prepared for that. Over-explaining is something very different. It's driven by this internal need to preempt any objection or to defend against any possible comeback or to fully demonstrate the extent of your knowledge, whether that's actually being questioned or not. It's not organized around what the listener needs. It's organized around your internal discomfort about possibly being questioned or challenged. Thoroughness adds information the listener needs. Over-explaining adds reassurance the speaker needs. When you've explained something and you notice you keep adding on extra pieces at the end, that is usually not thoroughness. That's you managing your own anxiety about how your answer is going to land. That's using more words as kind of a psychological insurance policy. The problem is this insurance policy doesn't actually protect you. It does the opposite. Every little addition or caveat or example or but what if is a small admission that you are not confident in what you just said, and the listener is picking up on it and feeling it.
Awkward.
This pattern does matter in small talk and small conversations. It matters significantly more in the moments that actually shape how people perceive your competence. In interviews, meetings, negotiations, presentations, any situation where someone is actively evaluating whether to trust your judgment. In those moments, over-explaining does something particularly damaging. It shifts the emotional tone from confidence to anxiety, and that emotional shift is felt. We've talked about this on this channel before, how emotional contagion, how it spreads, specifically anxiety and nervousness, spread faster than any other emotion. A long, hedge-filled explanation doesn't just communicate uncertainty, it transmits a felt sense of anxiety even if the answer is completely correct. The person who answers with calm, measured brevity reads as someone who's operating from general mastery. The person who responds with a long, extended, explanation-filled rant means as someone who's negotiating their own nerves in real time. This is why two equally capable people can walk out of the same high-stakes meeting with dramatically different outcomes. Not because one knew more, because one trusted their answer enough to let it be short. The assumption here is, the more complete my answer, the more they'll trust me. When in reality, the more decisive your answer, the more they'll trust you. And they'll ask follow-ups and follow-ons only if they need it. Most listeners are not just evaluating you on your comprehensiveness, they're evaluating whether you seem like someone who knows what they're talking about and can be trusted upon to make the right decision. A short, clear, confident answer does way more to express this than a long, drawn-out explanation, because it demonstrates you've already done the thinking, you've arrived at your conclusion, and here's where you're going to present it. And trusting your listener to come up with follow-up questions is a sign of respect. It treats them as if they're capable of directing the conversation to how best suit them. They are capable of directing the conversation to what they need, rather than assuming you have to anticipate and answer every single question they might come up with just in case. Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? Here are 5 concrete steps that you can do that are very easy. Step number 1, answer first, explain only if asked. Train yourself to give the direct answer first, without caveats, without follow-up explanations. Yes, I think we should move forward with this. And stop and shut up.
Shut up!
If they want more, they want reasoning, they want nuance, they want examples, you're there to provide it. This single habit reverses the entire dynamic. Instead of leading with justification and arriving at a conclusion, you lead with the conclusion and are capable of providing justification if needed. Step number 2, catch the caveat that no one asked for. Start noticing, catch yourself in real time. After you've given the answer, do you immediately start to go on and add extra caveats? Are you adding qualifiers that they haven't even asked about yet? Well, it kind of depends on, I could be wrong, but there's a chance that. When you catch yourself about to add something else on, pause, stop, ask yourself, did they ask about this, or am I just blurting it out because I'm nervous and anxious about that they might ask about it? Step number 3, practice the one-sentence version answer. Before any meeting, before any presentation, practice answering the main question in one sentence alone. Not because you'll necessarily need to deliver that answer, but because you have the experience of answering briefly and with certainty. And the discipline of having to find a one-sentence answer forces you to come up with all the alternatives beforehand. You'll often find the one-sentence version is far more persuasive than the 5-minute dissertation about the history of everything. And it forces clarity that a longer explanation avoids. Step number 4, let silence follow your answer. After you give a clear, complete answer, resist the urge to say anything else. Let it sit. Just because there's silence, that doesn't mean what you provided is insufficient. You're giving the person an opportunity to process what you said. Filling that silence with more words is one of the most common ways people undermine their own answer and their own credibility. And step number 5, notice the difference between explaining an answer for them and explaining an answer for yourself. Before adding any additional context, ask yourself, is this information that they need to make a decision, or is this information that I feel I need to say to make myself seem more competent? This is the core question behind everything in this video. Thoroughness serves the listener, over-explaining serves your own anxiety. And learning to tell the difference is what closes that credibility gap. Credibility isn't built by saying more, it's built by saying what's needed and leaving it at that. The instinct to over-explain comes from a reasonable place. You want to be seen as credible and knowledgeable. You want to be accurate. You want to be sure that nothing gets missed. But more words don't make you sound more confident. They often make you sound less credible. The shortest version of a well thought out, well-conceived answer is oftentimes the best. But I want to hear from you down in the comments. Are you someone that's a chronic over-explainer that feels the need to fill the empty space because of the anxiety that you feel inside? And if you want to go much deeper into this topic, I'll have a link down below to my article on Substack. And if you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for your time, and please consider subscribing.